So, kind of jumping back into Bacon's Rebellion. So, Bacon's Rebellion is very, very important because it is going to state that, hey, we are not going to, in this new world, the wealthy are not going to have more privileges than the poor, and the poor are not going to tolerate that. And when Nathaniel Bacon goes into Jamestown, it's very symbolic because they are literally overthrowing the government, and this is a big kind of thing and a big wave that's going to go through the colonies because they go into Jamestown and they drive him out, right? So the significance down here, it says it showed poor farmers would not put up with a government that only helped the wealthy, right? So this is it's just a major event when coming to the colonies. Okay, here's some pictures of the event, right? He storms into Jamestown, he burns it down. So this is our Fast Five. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Again, you should be writing down these Fast Fives. Make sure that you have the answer to the questions, and if you don't, kind of jot them down on the side as you're going through. All right. So now we're going to get into colonial New England. All right. And colonial New England is important because, again, I said in the first video that we did, the different parts of the colonies all have different reasons. Okay, and when you're talking about colonial New England, you definitely need to have your mind set on religion, right? So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the Puritans, okay? Now, the Puritans arrive in Massachusetts. So, it says most of the colonists of New England were religious descendants who disagreed with the established Church of England. So here's where the Puritans come in. The Puritans are coming over to the colonies because they do not think that the Church of England is strict enough, essentially. They want them to be harder. They want to be more harsh. They want to be more strict. And they want to purify the religion that is being practiced in the Church of England. So these New England colonists are going to be known as Puritans, and they're coming to the colonies to seek this religious freedom that they want. The Puritans are going to be established in the Puritans established the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which is around present-day Boston, okay? And this is kind of, right here in Plymouth is where they're going to be coming in. All right, the same thing you've been learning since probably elementary school. All right, here's another picture of it. Plymouth Rock right there. All right, this is the Massachusetts Bay, so this whole thing is going to be Massachusetts Bay Colony. All right, now this image right here, this image is going to be hitting on something that is, let me see if it's ahead. Nope. So what's going to happen is this image is going to hit on a big part that is going with these Puritans, all right? So what's going to happen with the Puritans is they're going to come over, as you know, on something called the Mayflower, right? And it's not just the Mayflower. They come over on a bunch of ships. But why am I bringing up the Mayflower? It's because they're going to have something called the Mayflower Compact, all right? And what this is essentially they're going to decide, how they are going to run their colony and how they're going to run their town. And this is important, again, because just like the House of Burgesses, this is a group of people sitting down that are going to decide for the first time in their lives how a town is going to be ran. Okay? So this is big, and so it says New England and the Native Americans. So as you know, Native Americans are living in the colonies at this time. Why? Because they're indigenous here, so they were here first. So with anything, I'm going to talk to you all about the 13 colonies. I'm going to really, really kind of get into the experiences with Native Americans as we kind of get through each region. So as with Jamestown, Puritan settlers were met with resistance from Native Americans over land rights. All right, the Puritans, they want to force Native Americans to assimilate to their culture or face armed resistance. So now, assimilate is kind of a growing or a trending word, I would say. I used to teach this a couple years ago, and not many individuals would understand what that word means. But there's a difference between what they get confused of assimilation and acculturation. All right. So assimilation means that you completely give up all of your heritage, your culture, your customs, your beliefs, and you 100% adapt the culture, customs, beliefs of another group of individuals. So what the Puritans are looking for is that they are looking for these Native Americans to completely give up their way of life and adapt the Puritan lifestyle. Okay, and this is not really going to work because it's so different. The roles of women, the roles of men, the roles of children in the village is just so different in comparison to a Puritan town. All right. And this is going to cause some problems. And the Puritans are going to be very, very, serious of wanting them to convert. And the Native Americans are not going to want to. So it says the Puritans are going to be able to, they're going to start putting these Native Americans on reservations, meaning that they're going to use their weapons and they're going to put them in areas so that way they can control them and they're going to get their land. Well, in 1675, there's going to be a massive Native American rebellion that's going to erupt against the Puritan colonists. Now, I kind of want to understand this. Yes, I want you to all to understand this. Yes, I'm going through the regions, but some of the events that I'm going to be talking about are kind of happening at the same time, right? We're in the same time frame of history, so it's something you kind of need to wrap your brain around. So this is, again, in New England, which is near Boston, so up north. You can think of the New England Patriots if you need to. And there's going to be a Native American rebellion that's going to erupt against Puritan colonists. And this Native American rebellion is going to be led by a Native American chief who's going to be called by the colonists King Philip. So this conflict is going to be called King Philip's War. A lot of times when individuals see King Philip, they're thinking like a legitimate king. But no, they call it King Philip's War because when you are looking at it and you see the title, you're going to think automatically that whoever King Philip is, it's his war and it's his fault, which is, again, the colonists working against the Native Americans when you're talking about their history. Now, here's the outcome. Okay, so it says a year later, after losing the ability to fight back against the superior colonial weapons, the Native American resistance is going to be surrendered. Okay, so the defeat is going to force the Native Americans out of New England, which they're never going to return. This is very, very important. And as far as the Native Americans are concerned, and as far as rebellions are concerned of Native Americans in this region, this is kind of the end of it. Okay, so they're going to be kicked out of New England. Puritans help establish a republic. So in Massachusetts, the Puritans are going to establish a republic in which they elected their own rulers, including their governor. However, voting rights were limited to only men who belonged to the Puritan church. All other colonies were ruled by a governor appointed by the crown. Towns were constructed to include a commons area that served for town meetings and other events like that. And at these town meetings, people were going to voice their concerns about the communities, what's going on, what needs to be improved, is everything going okay, do we need to add something here, and just kind of democratically vote on these issues. Now, again, this is the main kicker. In order to be a part, you have to be a member of the church. Now, when individuals come over here, when the Puritans come over here from England, okay, they're going to be very, very gung-ho on what they're doing. Meaning they are dedicated, they are following the book to a T, and it's kind of this. I kind of want to phrase this like you imagine, when you first start working out, or when you first start reading, or maybe you say you're going to go to bed early. The first few days, you are very, very dedicated, and you're on time. You're doing your reading. You're going to bed early. For example, of working out, that first week, you're like, yeah, like you're getting it done, but then week 2 rolls around, week 3 rolls around, and what happens is you become less and less motivated to do the things that you're supposed to be doing. And so with the halfway covenant, this is going to kind of be the issue with that. And the halfway covenant is going to be created to help membership in the church. So it says, as the years passed in Massachusetts, the Puritan church began to lose political power over these new generations of Puritans. Church leaders felt that people were drifting away from their initial religious purposes in the New World. To counter this decline in membership, the Puritans were going to create the religious deal, which is known as the halfway covenant. All right, so those who accepted the covenant could participate in some church sacraments, but were not allowed to vote. So essentially what it's saying is that you have the ability to pay and to be a part of the church, but you only have like a halfway membership. So imagine like if you have a membership to Pandora, okay, but you don't pay for it, it's just free. Well, yeah, you get to listen to the songs, but guess what? You got commercials with it, so you don't get everything with that. So what's going to happen? It says the right to vote maintained only for strict Puritans who experienced conversion and obtained full membership. Okay, so you have to be a part of the church. Why do you have to be a part of the church? Is because if you're a part of the church, you have to give money. And churches are a business, just like anything else. And so they need that money to function, right? It says, more importantly to the church, halfway members were required to pay a tax, to join and to maintain their standing in the community. More members, more tax money, more power. All right, so let's kind of keep that in mind as we're cruising through. Now you're going to have the creation of Rhode Island. So it says the Puritans were not tolerant of any other religions or people who disagreed with the church. There's going to be a man named Roger Williams who angered the church officials by expressing opinions that went against the church authority. He favored purchasing lands from the natives and not taking it by force. This is unheard of, right? Usually most people, especially when you're talking about King Philip's War or the Puritans, they're trying to take this land by force. He's not doing that. He's saying, hey, I understand that you have this land and that it's valuable to you, so let me pay you. Let me give you some sort of value for what is so important to you. It says, no person shall be forced to believe in any doctrine of religion by his own government. So this is kind of saying, hits on the bullet point before that. Most importantly, he believed in a firm separation of church and state. And in response, Williams is going to be excommunicated in 1637. This is from Massachusetts. And the following year, with the land he purchased from the Native Americans, he's going to found the colony of Rhode Island. Now, it's important because Rhode Island is very, very big when you're considering Roger Williams. You need to go ahead and connect their names. If you think Roger Williams, you better think Rhode Island. And it's important because Rhode Island is going to prove to be a safe haven for Baptists, Quakers, and Jews, where people could practice their religions freely. So essentially what he does is he creates an environment where everyone can kind of go and kind of do your own thing, and you're not being forced to be a part of the Puritan ways or to do the customs that they need you to do. You have the ability to kind of practice your own religion freely. Okay, so Roger Williams, a little bit more about him. He's a dissenter who helped found the colony of Providence, which is Rhode Island, which became a haven for those who disagree with the Puritan Massachusetts. Anne Hutchinson's going to be a dissenter who's going to be banished from Massachusetts, and she's also going to help found Rhode Island. All right, so we're going to skip these. You will have an Anne Hutchinson reading. We'll make sure we put that up there. Okay, and I'm actually going to stop there.